Okay, we're going to work on section 2.7. I told you last week that we were skipping the beginning of that. We moved on over to the percents part. So we're going to back up and talk about solving proportions. It is a fact that in a proportion, the cross products are equal. And that's what we're going to use to verify this. So I am on page 165, and I'm looking at problem number 31, which has 5 over 35 equals 8 over 56. Now, what a proportion is a statement of two ratios being equal. That is, two fractions, so to speak, being equal. That makes it a proportion. And so the question on this problem is to determine whether or not this is a true proportion. So to do that, we need to check the cross products and see if they're equal. The question is, does 5 times 56 equal 8 times 35? If that's true, then this is a proportion. If it's not true, it's not a proportion. So 5 times 56 is 280, and 8 times 35 is also 280. So the answer to this would be that, yes, it is a true proportion. Okay? So now I'm moving to number 33, 120 over 82, and 7 over 10. So the question is, are the cross products equal? Does 10 times 120 equal 7 times 82? Well, 10 times 120 is 1200. And 7 times 82 is 574. Obviously not the same, so this is false. It is not a proportion. Moving on down to number 35. We have 1/2 over 5 and 1 over 10. So checking the cross products, does 1/2 times 10, is that the same answer as 5 times 1? And 1/2 of 10 is 5, and so this one would be true. So in this group of problems, if the cross products give you the same answer, it is a true proportion. If they don't give you the same answer, then it's a false proportion. Alright, now we're moving to number 37, and what we're going to be doing here is solving proportions using this idea of cross products. So it has k over 4 equals 175 over 20. So I'm going to make an equation using cross products. So 20 times k equals 4 times 175. So I'm going to do the multiplication. 4 times that is 700. Then I'm going to divide both sides by the 20 to solve the equation. And 20 will go into that 35 times. So that's how we solve a proportion. We make an equation using the cross products and then just solve the resulting equation. Okay, I'm moving on to number 39. I'll get this where y'all can see that. 49 over 56 and z over 8. So again, the cross products, 56 times z equals 49 times 8. So I do this multiplication and get 392. And then I'm going to divide by 56. And 392 divided by 56 is 7. And so that solves that problem. Alright, I'm moving on to number 41. And it has x over 24 equals 15 over 16. Again, we make an equation out of the cross products. So 16 times x equals 24 times 15. And 24 times 15 is 360. So I'm going to divide both sides by 16. And 360 divided by 16 is not a whole number. So if you wrote it as a decimal, it would be 22.5. If I write it, hang on, I messed something up here. If I write it as a mixed number, it would be 45 over 2. Okay, so if you divide that and you get this decimal, you remember there's a button on your calculator that above it has F and 2 arrows and D. That's the button. I think this says PRB. That allows you to change from a fraction to a decimal or a decimal to a fraction. So if you press second to activate that, you're going to get 22 1/2 on your calculator. And then you remember the second function of the fraction key, this second function right here, allows you to change a mixed number into an improper fraction. So which one of these would be the right answer? It depends on the directions. If it doesn't say anything, then either one of them would be right. But if it says write your answer as a whole number or a simplified fraction, then you would want to put 45 halves. If it says write your answer as a whole number or a decimal, then you'd want to put 22.5. So on these problems, it's going to be important to read the directions to see how it specifies that the answer needs to be written. Alright, I'm moving on now to problem number 47. And even though it looks more complicated, it's still, get in focus here. Okay. It's still 1 fraction equals 1 fraction. So it's a proportion, and so I can still do the cross products. But realize that when I do it, it's 11 times the quantity, 3y minus 2, and it's 5 times the quantity, 6y minus 5. Okay? So that means I've got to distribute 11 times 3y and 11 times negative 2. 5 times 6y and 5 times negative 5. So now I need to solve this equation by getting all my y's on the same side So I'm going to subtract 30y. That's going to give me 3y. I'll bring down the negative 22. That's going to zero out. And I'll bring down the negative 25. Now I need to isolate the y. That is, get the y by itself. So I would add 22. And get 3y equals negative 3. Then I would divide by 3 and get y equals negative 1. Okay, we're going to move over to number 49, which is very similar. So again, when you do the cross products, it's 3 times this quantity, 5k plus 1, and 6 times the whole thing, 3k minus 2. So we've got to distribute 3 times 5k, 3 times 1, 6 times 3k, and 6 times negative 2. Whoops, I left off the k. Alright, so I'm going to subtract 18k to get my k's on the same side. Then I'm going to subtract 3 because I'm trying to get the k by itself. Then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3, and my answer will be k equals 5. Okay. One of the neat things about proportions is they're so useful in solving everyday problems. So we're going to look at some of those kinds of problems. And I'm looking first of all at problem number 55. If 16 candy bars cost $20, how much do 24 cost? Now some of you, we've talked about this last term, have a different way of solving it, and that's okay if it works for you. But I'm going to demonstrate it using a proportion because that's what this is all about. So we're comparing the number of candy bars to the cost. And I find it helpful to write what you're making the comparison of to be sure that you get the right numbers in the right position. So it tells me that 16 candy bars cost $20. And the question is, how much do 24? Well, 24 is the number of candy bars, and I'm looking for the cost. So now I'm ready to do my cross products, and 16 times x equals 20 times 24. 20 times 24 is 480, and 480 divided by 16 is 30. Okay. So in this case, it would be $30 because it was a cost. All right, I'm moving on down to number 57. 8 quarts of oil costs 14. How much do 5 quarts of oil cost? So I'm comparing the number of quarts of oil with the cost. So 8 quarts costs 14. How much do 5 cost? So again, we look at cross products, and 8 times x is 14 times 5. 14 times 5 is 70. So I'm going to divide both sides by 8. And 70 divided by 8 is 8.75. So that would be $8.75. Okay. The next one is number 61. And it says if 6 gallons of premium unleaded gasoline costs $22.56, how much would it cost to completely fill a 15-gallon tank? So I'm comparing the number of gallons with the cost. And 6 gallons cost $22.56. So 15 is the number of gallons, and I'm looking for the cost. Again, we do cross products. So 15 times $22.56 is going to be 338.4. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 6. And I'm going to get, my calculator says 56.4. But remember, this was money. So I need to put that 0 there because I know, even though my calculator doesn't, that money always has 2 decimal places. So you'll need to make that $56.40. Alright, that's the end of the problems on this section. So now you should be ready to do the homework on that.